How we going? You're with Jono of Prosperbuild fame, and today I thought I'd go through a bit of what's coming up this coming year. Partly for me and around here, partly for the business, partly for the housing market as I see it, but generally just a bit of a yarn. Chance for you to get to see me and know who I am a bit. I pop on these videos about these houses an awful lot. Most of them are private, so you'd never see them unless you've purchased. But if you've seen them, you know how I roll and what I do. I reckon that video is about the best medium for building inspections, solely and simply because it makes life easy. You get to understand exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, I can tell you all about the red hunk of plastic, but unless you can see the Lego red hunk of plastic up there, you don't know what we're on about. It takes an awful lot of words to describe something that's a very simple concept. So, picture is worth 1,000 words. A video might be 30, typically, pictures per second. So if you think of it in those terms, we get to say an awful lot more in about the 15 minutes that we do an overview. Now, this year, there's a few things that I'm going to be doing. I've been doing a major reno on our own home for quite some time now. And in fact, shortly, I'm about to pop down and buy some deck battens. Now, deck battens are a rather interesting topic all by themselves. It's been quite an education on them. So when you've got a membrane deck, as we have just out the door here, a membrane deck with a living area beneath, we need to protect that membrane when we put a deck over top. We want to achieve a few things. We want to achieve sound isolation. We want to achieve protection for any timber or other material that we use for a plinth. And we want to ensure that water can still get away. There's a bunch of different ways of achieving that, from adjustable jacks like Neurojacks through to there are recycled tire products, which are quite good in terms of sound isolation. But the product that we've gone for in this case is actually called deck batten. It's basically a modified cavity batten slash, what do you call them? I should know the name of it. It's not clicking. What your real estate agent signs are made out of. It's modified so that it's stronger and it's 8 millimeters tall, which is enough to stop the water from climbing up it and into the timber. We have to get some of that and glue it on to the base of our rafts and then build our rafts so that they're removable. If we do need to maintain or do some work on the membrane, we can do that. So again, quite an education, and I do believe in doing what or practicing what I preach. A few other things I'm going to do. You might get to see a bit more about my electric digger this year. My electric digger's done a lot of work with Naylor Love, with the warehouse in Auckland. It's done a lot of work around the place on environmentally friendly orchards with our friends at Forest Lodge Orchard. It's done a bit of work on various passive builds. And of course, it's done a lot of work around here as we've been doing reno as well. I want to try and get that working a little bit more. So the cool things about this digger is, firstly, bother all vibration. It's really easy to operate. Second thing is no emissions. No noxious noise emissions, which means you can actually hear everybody when you're working on the thing. It's quiet and ultimately very, very cheap to run. Simply because electricity is a darn sight cheaper than diesel. You don't have fumes, you don't have noise, you don't have vibration, and that means you can use it in confined spaces. That means that you can use it on the interior of a building. That means that it's much more sensible if you want to teach a child to drive a digger, which I do. I want my children to be useful. So they almost all of them, the ones that can reach the pedals, know how to at least have a drive. Around housing and the housing market, obviously a lot of uncertainty around pricing and everything else. The one thing we can always say, having been through about 3 drops in the market now, is that the market is volatile. Volatility is the lever that can gain you a lot of strength. Now, what does that look like in particular? The houses which have been high demand start to drop off a little bit. So that's your batches, that's your second houses, that's some beachfront sort of stuff. People start to go back to plain, normal, typically. However, if you've got a solid plan and you can take something that's slightly different and make it remarkably different, but maintain a good core offer, you can do quite well. There is still grounds to be had for renovations. However, I do see an awful lot these days where I start to look at it and I go, if you took 2 properties with 2 old worn out houses on and were to put somewhere between 3 and 6 new houses on the same property or the same ground footprint, you would start to get good returns. So I always counsel everybody that I'm talking to, do the math. because it's not just as simple as let's buy a house and let's go, let's repair it. Sometimes it's more expensive to repair it than it's worth. Sometimes it's much, much, much cheaper to repair it than you think. So pricing is really the key. Do the learning, learn what you need to do, price appropriately. What else starts to matter? Identifying what you are trying to achieve through property. So, for example, what I'm trying to achieve here is a house that can cope with 7 children. That's how many I have. My wife has. We both have together. We want the 7 children to be able to be in each other's face, but to be able to get out of each other's face as well. So we're building a relatively large house with a relatively large bit of land with lots of different little areas in the garden and everything else that they can disappear into and work with. That's just long and ongoing and consistent work. But of course, you learn a lot about the processes behind it at the same time. And to be honest, as I say, building and building products do change perpetually. So it's good to be doing these things because you get to see what moves. Other points that start to pay attention or start to matter now, I would always counsel if you've got a property and you've done some questionable works, start to do what you can to try and get them unquestionable, to legitimize that work. Now, it's a pain in the butt to get a certificate of acceptance, but if you do it, it will improve your outcome, your end value. So there's a couple of little hints and tips in here, which, again, if you put them into practice, stand to make you a bit of money if you want to play in the market, or if you are playing in the market. Put the hints and tips into practice. If you've got questions about it, give us a bell. This year, from a business perspective, I am going to start focusing on broadening a little bit of the video content. I'm going to start focusing on more specific content. So that means, in many respects, having been a building inspector since effectively 2008, I'm quite an old dog at this now. I am going to start offering to help those who want to hone their business. I'm in the unique position of having turned over way north of $250,000 in purely online sales in an industry that nobody makes purely online sales in. So there's a bit that I can offer you if you're a building inspector going somewhere. Give us a ring and let's see what we can do for you.